Hello, my name is Sheila McGee-Smith, and I am an industry analyst that has been covering the contact center for over 30 years. I'm here at Zoomtopia, which is ground zero this week for all that is about AI and contact center and phone and meetings. I'm here with Mahesh, who is the head of AI here at Zoom. So welcome. Thank you for taking the time.
No, thank you for having me, Sheila. I really appreciate it.
Excellent. So the big news here is about AI Companion.
Yeah.
So you can give us a sense of what AI Companion is, and if you can, apply it to the contact center. I know it has a lot of use cases in the enterprise for employees, but my heart is in the contact center. So I'd like you to gear
as is mine. So I'm happy to do both. On September 5th, we announced the GA launch of AI Companion. We made it available to all Zoom users with a paid license. So that was a big decision at no additional cost. And since we've rolled that out, it's been very widely adopted. We've had thousands and thousands of accounts turning it on and using it, and that's been fantastic to see. And we continue to see a very sharp rise in the number of companies and accounts using it. The key thing that the AI Companion is an umbrella term. It refers to capabilities that spread across the Zoom platform. Okay. So what we've already announced and released are things like generating a whiteboard using generative AI, or being able to summarize a meeting, or being able to ask a question during a meeting, a query. What did Sheila say about X, Y, and Z? And being able to get that kind of capability. In team chat, it's the ability to compose a chat message. In email, composing an email using Gen AI, or summarizing a chat thread. All of these fall under the umbrella of AI Companion. So it sits across multiple Zoom products with many more to come, and it's included at no additional cost. So, and that's available to all the knowledge workers in companies. But when you think about the contact center license will also include AI Companion. So the contact center agent, many of the capabilities I just described apply perfectly to the contact center. Summarizing an engagement that's been had by the user and the agent, and sending it on to the next agent, for example, or sharing a summary, or being able for that agent to then take it and then share it in a chat channel with another agent. Maybe composing and replying using email and using an email composition. All of these capabilities, if you think about them, are broad-based, and they will fit very nicely in the contact center workflow as well. Now, we're also adding another layer on top of that with Expert Assist, which we announced today, which will be live by the end of the year, and that adds another layer of AI specific to the contact center, so which we can talk more about. But that's, in a nutshell, 1 month into AI Companion. That's what it's about.
So, as you say, a month in, Are you already hearing from customers how they're using it and what more they'd like to see from Zoom?
Boy, do we hear from customers. and the good news is it's really been very positive so far. We've had comments such as people said, hey, I don't even have to think about attending some of these meetings. The summary is so good that I can actually skip the meeting, which I'm not sure how that plays, but there are situations where that makes sense. Or, hey, I have somebody in my team is perpetually joining a meeting late, and so instead of having to wait for them to catch up, they can ask AI Companion to say, hey, what did Sheila say about this? Or what did John say about the marketing plan, and get up to speed without interrupting and bothering the rest of it. So I think we're hearing that kind of feedback. We're also hearing requests where they're saying, this is great, you can summarize a meeting, but I've had 4 meetings in the last month with somebody. Can you give me a summary of all those 4? So there's lots of ideas generating, and we're saying, yes, that's actually in our roadmap. So we're happy to hear that feedback. Or query a meeting that happened before. So those are all things that can be taken as feedback for us. And we're Zoom. If one thing about Zoom is that Eric is very, very keen that we always keep it customer centric and talk to customers all that time.
So speaking of types of customers, one of the things that was talked about today during the keynote was AI Companion for higher ed and for healthcare.
Yes.
So tell me what changes in the sort of generic product that makes it specific to those kinds of verticals.
So I think the announcement today was, as you know, those are industries that have regulations and standards, HIPAA and COPPA and other standards. So introducing AI, you have to be compliant with what they need in order to deploy it, and that was the reason why we didn't have them in the original inclusion. But I think the capabilities that we have are broad-based enough that they cover the use cases that in EDU or in you might have a group lecture in Zoom with a professor and students. Student joins late, they can ask a query. What did professor say about this topic? Or a summary after the class is over. Healthcare, you have patient and physician interactions. Same concepts could apply in clinical. There's plenty of non-clinical environment situations where there's meetings and staff meetings and other things in healthcare that, again, AI Companion can help with meetings, with the chat, et cetera, et cetera. So it isn't that we're building industry-specific AI Companion. It's that we're now able to offer it to those markets that are regulated.
So one of the key tenets of Zoom with AI is a federated approach.
Yes.
So if I look at specifically AI Companion, is that primarily Zoom models? Are you using other models? Can you talk to that?
Yeah, so I think when we talk about federation, again, we're always very much thinking about the customer first. And the number one priority is quality. So for a given feature, I think it gives us the optionality to say, what's the best quality we can deliver for a given feature that the customer would appreciate? Because customers are not going to settle for anything but the best. So having access to our own models, where we're investing a lot and we're building it out and have a lot of capability, but also having the access to OpenAI, Anthropic, others in the future, allows us to develop that muscle of being able to say, how do I quickly establish what's the best fit for that use case or that feature? There may be things that our model does extremely well, and there are many of those. A lot of our use cases are using our model, but there's also other cases where perhaps OpenAI or Anthropic provides value, and that we may not choose to build, or that they have some advantage today. But we also know it's dynamic. Next week, our model could get better, and then we don't have to use a third-party model. And so I think federation is really about developing the muscle to pick what's best for the use case and for the customer, and have that be dynamic, and not have it be tethered to one provider where you're kind of roped into one provider and you're dependent on them for everything.
I like that notion of muscle. Yeah. I think that really describes it well. Yeah. That it's a competency.
It is.
Right. If you just choose one, then to your point, you're going down a specific path.
And I would add that also in certain regulated industries, there may be scenarios where someone can't use a given model, and so having federation allows us to say, great, for this one, you can have you use a Zoom model. If, for example, they can't use OpenAI for some reason, as we know that some governments don't allow OpenAI, we know there's situations. Yeah. So federation allows us to meet the needs of all the customers.
So one of the things that I'm particularly excited about when it comes to Gen AI is being able to build applications for customers more quickly, right? Instead of having to manually create things. Like I think about intents for chatbots or voice bots and how tedious that has been, right? Yes. So how does it impact that?
So that's a great point. So let's talk about Zoom Virtual Agent and how we're using Gen AI in two areas. The first area is the one you mentioned, intent management and intent creation. I'm a business. I have a certain type of issue that comes up fairly frequently, but the way customers express that issue varies dramatically. One person says it one way, another person says it another. But in all those cases, they mean the same thing. Mm-hmm. They have an intent. I want to return a product, or I want to complain about a missing ingredient, whatever those might be. And I want to take all those users on a similar journey, right? Based on the missing ingredient, for example.
Even they want the same thing.
Yes. Somebody says the broccoli is wilted, and someone else says, the tomatoes were spoiled. I wanted to understand that both of these are an ingredient issue, and I want to take them down a path of reporting an ingredient issue. So how do we do that? That's not an intent that we would provide to every customer. We have an intent training capability, AI-based intent training capability in the Zoom Virtual Agent product. I, as a customer, can come in and generate a custom intent that's specific to my business by providing it a little bit of data and examples, or using synthetic. Actually, you can use intent generation. You can use intent generation to actually provide the examples. Now I've created a custom intent. Great. So now I've got a custom intent that's great at recognizing that particular type of issue. Now what I want to do is to take that user on a journey, right? So we think of that as a flow. So you want to return a product. I might want to ask you when you bought it, what did you buy, how much, which store did you buy it? So we're also using generative AI to actually build that whole flow out. So you can just in your words say, I want to build a flow to return a product that does A, B, and C, and and I want to make sure that it asks these questions and it checks for whether it's 30 days or less, and it actually generates a flow in our flow builder that's ready. It's not going to be, you still want to clean it up, fix it, improve it, but imagine that it's probably doing a significant amount of the work that you would otherwise have to do setting it up on your own. So intents and flows can both be great use cases for generative AI.
So last question.
Yes.
Has to do with, are you at Zoom using generative AI to help you come to market faster, to build features faster? I mean, is life different today than it was a year ago with respect to the speed of development? I'm so taken by a quote from Sam Altman at Dreamforce when he was being interviewed by Benioff, and he said, today, ChatGPT can build 25% of my code, and tomorrow, 50%, and then 75. Right? So are you using it that way?
We absolutely are. So one example of learning from our own application is, we're using our own Zoom contact center and our own Zoom virtual agent for Zoom's own support. And you can imagine the scale of Zoom support, given the global audience and all the users. And that's been fascinating because we've really been able to put generative AI to the test with our own, in front of our own customers who are very demanding and who expect high quality output. And we've seen really good outcomes and learnings from that. That's one example of us drinking our own champagne and using it to improve our own outputs. In terms of things like coding and other things, there are things going on with our development team. I'm less involved in that, more involved in the external facing product. What I can say is that we use AI Companion inside the company every single day.
Wow.
So I have meetings. I always turn on summary. I always share the summary with everyone. I ask people to give the feedback. We have our own feedback loops. We have our own thing. But what we're finding is that summary is then being used in a team chat. So 2 people couldn't attend the meeting. Somebody said, hey, summary is here for you. You can read it. And you start to understand what are the patterns. Where can we get better? And same thing with meeting queries, where you can ask a query during a meeting. So I think the only way we can learn is by actually using it. And the nice thing is we do use our own services, so that's a good thing.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And enjoy the rest of Zoomtopia. I intend to.
I will do that, and you do the same. And it's always a pleasure to speak to you, Sheila.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.